Hello children, my name is Girija. I am the facilitator of Fortune Butterfly Senior Secondary School for the Social Science. So today I am going to explain you the first lesson of the 7th class, that is where, when and how the medieval India. So this is the first lesson of the history. So what is history? History means it is the study of the human past. Study of the human past is called as history. So to make the study of the human past easier, it has been divided into three periods, that is the ancient period, medieval period and the modern period. Ancient, medieval and the modern period. Okay, so this ancient, medieval and the modern period. So about the ancient period you have learned in the 6th class. Now in this class you are going to learn about the medieval period. So this medieval period, this word has been derived from the Latin word that means medius and avium. Medius plus avium. Okay, this means the middle age. It means middle age. So Indian history is also divided into three parts. That is the ancient, medieval and the modern period. And this ancient period, it stretches from the where the human learned to write, from the period when the human learned to write till 647 CE. So 647 CE means the death of the Emperor Harshavardhana. So till that date this period extends, and the medieval period it extends from 647 CE to 1700 CE. And again this medieval period is divided into two parts, that is the early medieval period and the later medieval period. Okay, early medieval period and the later medieval period. So this early medieval period it extends from 647 CE to 1200 CE, and later medieval period extends from 1200 CE to 1700 CE. So here CE means common era. The full form of CE is common era. Okay, and next is the modern period. So modern period it started from 700 CE till date. Okay, so this medieval period it has ended when this Mughal empire it started breaking down, and slowly the Britishers they started to get the power. Okay, they started to get their power. Until that this medieval period was there, and then 1700 CE to till date is the modern period. Okay, so here there were many changes were there in the medieval period. Many changes were there in the medieval period, in the social, in the political, in the you can tell economical. Many changes has come. Okay, far-reaching changes have come in this period. So the first thing what happened in the early medieval period is, actually during this period, as I told you that Emperor Harshavardhana died. He died. So during that period, many of the kingdoms which were ruled by the emperor, they became independent. And these independent kingdoms, they started fighting with each other. Okay, to prove their supremacy, they started fighting with each other. So the early medieval period was the battles between the neighboring kingdoms. And taking this as an advantage, many tribal peoples, many tribes from the Central Asia, they entered into the India through the passes in the Himalayan region, and they came here. They conquered many of the kingdoms and they have established the mighty kingdoms. Like you can take the examples of the Muhammad Ghori has established the slave dynasty, and Babur, Mughal Empire. So many of the kings or many of the invaders, they came and they established the mighty kingdoms here. So some of the best examples are the Turks, Afghans, Persians and Mongols. So these dynasties, they mostly came from the Central Asia and they established their mighty kingdoms in these places. Okay. So next we will go, what was the geographical impact on the India? What was the geographical impact of the India? So actually India, it have 5,422 kilometer long coastal line and 2,575 kilometer of the Himalayan mountain range. So now we are going to learn about the geographical impact on the India. So for the geographical impact, actually India is a vast country and it have the 5,422 kilometer long coastal line is there, and also 2,575 kilometer Himalayan mountain range is there. So this Himalayan mountain range, it acts as a barrier. Okay, it separate our country from the Asia. It separate our country from the Asia. Okay, so it acts as the barrier. Okay, but also what is happened means, actually there were some of the passes. Okay, the mountain ranges will be there. These passes are there. Means from here they can enter the lower areas. When compared with the other thing, mountain ranges, the lower areas will be there. So from these mountain means from these passes, many of the invaders and many of the travelers, they entered into the India. They entered into the India and they captured the India. And not only this, the northern plains were means actually the northern plains, they were the actually here the Indus and the Ganga river were flowing. So this area was very fertile. So that's why many great kingdoms were established in these places. But not only that, here in for these kingdoms, they have the threat for the inventions also, and several inventions were also happened in these areas. Several inventions also took place in these places. But when you come for the southern side of the India, actually the Vindhya mountain and the Satpura mountain, they act as the barriers. They act as the barriers. Okay, so that's why what happened means, this southern India was less affected by the inventions. Okay, it had very less affection by the invention, means invaders. Okay, so most of the people they tried, like Turks and the Mughals, they tried to cross, but they failed. So this southern part, it was ruled by the prosperous kingdoms like Rashtrakutas, Cholas and Pandyas. And the Cholas and the Pandyas, they also have a long coastal line. So that's why they have built a strong navy and they started extending their kingdoms, and they went into the Indian Ocean and they captured the Sri Lanka and the Indonesia islands also. Indian subcontinent was known by different names for thousands of the years. Okay, so now we are going to learn some of the names of the Indian subcontinent during the medieval period. So the first name was the Sapta Sindhu region. So the India, actually the Sindhu is the Sanskrit name for the Indus. So the Indus, Ravi, Vyas, Satluj, Saraswati, Jhelum and Chenab. These were the different tributaries of the Indus river. So where these rivers were flowing, those area means that area was called as the Sapta Sindhu region. Okay, so this was earlier, it was noted in the Zend Avesta, the holy book of the Persians. Okay, the holy book of the Persians. But in that book, it was noted like Hapta Hindu. Hapta Hindu. So Hapta Hindu means, actually this S means in the Persian language, the Sanskrit S was replaced by the H. That is, Sa was replaced by Ha. So that's why they called it Ha, means Hindu. Okay, we will call it as Sindhu, but they called it as a Hindu. Okay, so the Sa was replaced by the Ha. They called it as a Ha. So that's why it was written like Hapta Hindu. Okay, so next it was called, the one more name was the Indu. Indu means this is the another name for the Soma. This is the Sanskrit name for, actually Indu was the Sanskrit name for the Soma. So Soma is the drink which the peoples used for to offer to the gods. They used this drink. Okay, so the peoples who drank this Soma were called as Hindu. Okay, the peoples who drank this Soma, they were called as Hindu, and the area where these Hindu peoples lived, that was called as Hindustan. Okay, the area where these peoples lived was called as a Hindustan. Okay, Next, it was also called as Aryavarta. Aryavarta. Actually, this means the land of the Aryans. So, the Aryans, when the Aryans they came to India in the Vedic age, so that time this land was called as Aryavarta, but only the northern part, not the southern part, only the northern part was called as Aryavarta. Okay. Next, one more name is the Bharatavarsha. So, this name, it means that the name, the land of the descendants of the Bharata. Okay. So, you know that the Bharata was the son of the king Dushyanta. So, this Bharata, he was a great king and he has captured nearly the total Indian subcontinent. So, that's why the descendants, where the descendants of the Bharata lived, that was called as the Bharatavarsha. Next, it was also used, means in the Arabic and the Persian literature, the Indian subcontinent was written like Hind. Okay, the Indian subcontinent was written like Hind. Okay, so that's why in that one they wrote like Hind. Okay, and next in the Greek peoples they called it as a Indica. Okay, the Greek peoples they call the Indian subcontinent like Indica. So mostly we believe, means mostly they believe that from this Indica only the present, the name, the modern name of India has been derived. The modern name of the India has been derived from this Indica. Okay. So these are the different names of the Indian subcontinent during the medieval period. For the thousand of the periods it was called, and these were the names. One was the Sapta Sindhu, another was the Hindu or Hindustan, next was the Aryavarta, and next was the Bharatavarsha, Hind and Indica. To know about the historians and their sources. So to get the many accurate information, the historians they depend upon the many of the sources. Like they excavate, means in the 6th class you may have known that they excavate many of the ancient settlements. Okay, they excavated many of the ancient settlements and they go through the many of the remainings whatever are found in those ancient settlements. So why they do all this, means to get the accurate information, So now, means after the writing was discovered, that time the peoples, means the historians, they started to depend on some of the sources like the inscriptions, coins and monuments and all those things. Now we are going to learn about them. So the first are some of the sources were the epigraphic evidence, that is the inscriptions. Next the numismatic evidence, that is the coins. The archaeological evidence, that is the buildings and the sculptures. And the artistic evidence like paintings and literary evidence like historical writings. So they depend upon all these sources to get the accurate information about the particular king or particular kingdom or the people's economical, means how the peoples lived about the past. They depend upon all these evidences. So first we will go for the epigraphic evidence, that is the inscriptions. So inscriptions are the writings that are engraved on the hard part, means on the hard things. The writings which are engraved are called as the inscriptions. So this may be on the rocks or on the stones or on the coins also. Okay, these may be on the rocks or coins or on the stones. If you have went to the old, means ancient temples or any southern temples, South Indian temples, you may have seen that on the wall there will be you can see that many writings will be there. So these are called as the inscriptions. Okay, this is called as the inscriptions. Okay, so the study of the inscriptions is called as epigraphy. The study of the inscription is called as epigraphy, and who study the science is called as epigrapher. And here these inscriptions that may be of 2 lines or also the lengthy one. Okay, these inscriptions that may be in a 2 lines or also in a lengthy one it can be. So sometimes some of the poets they write a lengthy poems on the king, praising the king. So those are called as the prashastis. Okay, those are called as the prashastis. So these inscriptions they give us many of the information about the kings and how they were ruling and how the peoples were living, what was the economical conditions, and all these things we know from these inscriptions. Okay, mostly they depend upon the inscriptions, but due to some means as the historians they don't know about the writing, or due to the writings, so some of the inscriptions may have been left unread, but mostly the historians they read these inscriptions to get the accurate information about the particular period of the time when the king were ruling, the emperor or the kings were ruling. Okay, so next we will know about the coins. So coins are pieces of metals that are used as money. Okay, these coins are the pieces of the metals that were used as the money. Now we are using the coins. So that is our money. So like that only the rulers during that particular time they also issued some of the coins. Like our government how they are issuing the coins and notes, during that time also the rulers they issued the coins as the money. So those are called as the coins, and these coins also give us many of the important information about the kings and the particular date of the kings, and also what were their achievements and also their interest, and everything we will know from these coins. Okay, the study of the coins is called as the numismatics. Okay, the study of the coin is numismatics. Okay, so here these coins they provide us the dates, they provide the interest of the king, and they also provide the achievements of the king. So when the historians they have any of the doubt, to clarify the doubts they use the coins to know about the dates and the events. For knowing the date and the events they use the coins to know the to clarify their doubts about the date. Okay. Monuments and buildings. Now we will know about the monuments and buildings. So these monuments and buildings also provide us the information about the time, which period they were built, and which ruler has built it, and at what situation he built that particular monuments. And these temples, palace and the mosques, these not only provide the religious, means not only provide the information about the religious practices, but they also gives us the other informations also, like the political information, economical and the social conditions during that period. They also provide the political, economic and the social conditions during that particular time. Okay, so some of the mosques like Jama Masjid and some of the forts like the Delhi, means you can take the Taj Mahal, these are the monuments. These are called as the monuments. Okay, so these provide us at which stage, means at which situation they were built. Like when you see the Taj Mahal, you know the story about the Shah Jahan, why it was built by the Shah Jahan. So these provide us many of the information and also the financial situations or the economical conditions, how the conditions were there during that particular ruler. So now we will know about the paintings. So paintings are also, means these were also the important source of information. Okay, these also provide us many information about the kings. Okay, so actually these tell us, means in the medieval period these tell the development, how much development has there, means how much development was there in the painting. Okay, so here actually the kings and the many rich people, they were very interested in having their portraits. So by this we know about the, means how the kings look like and what was the economical condition, how was the way of the dressing of the peoples, and what was the religious customs they followed, and also the living conditions of the people during that period, during that particular period. Like Aurangzeb's paintings are there, many paintings are there. So by this you can know that how the Aurangzeb looked like and how he conduct the assemblies. All these things you can know by these paintings. So now we are going to learn about the literary evidences. So these literary evidences are the written evidences which are present, okay, which you can see like this is the literary evidences, and here these also provide us lot of the information about the kings. Okay, these also provide the lot of the information about the kings and the particular medieval period. The lot of the informations are provided by these evidences, and these are divided into two parts, that is the indigenous sources, that is written by the poets who live within the country, and the foreign sources which are written by the foreign travelers, means the persons who come here, who visit here, those peoples whatever they wrote, right, those are called as the foreign sources. So, first we will go for the indigenous sources. So, mostly during that time, the most of the manuscripts or most of the manuscripts were written on the palm leaves, bamboo leaf, cloth, birch barks and the paper. And these contain, means these sources, mostly the writings were based on the subjects like the religion, philosophy, system of the science, art and the literature. Mostly they deal with these subjects, and most of the things, means most of these manuscripts were damaged, means mostly these were damaged due to the rain, fungus and different reasons. These were damaged during that period. Okay. So, the kings, they appointed the poets and the chronicles, means chronicles, to write about the incidents or the whatever, means the incidents whatever is happening in their state. They used to appoint those poets as well as the chronicles to record the incidents whatever is happening in their states. So, here most of them they were damaged, but some of them they were gathered and the information was published by the Cornell Todd in the book called as the Annals and the Antiquities of the Rajasthan in 1829 CE. Okay. And not only that, many different books were also written like Rajatarangini, which was written by the Kalhana, and Vikramadeva Charita, this was written by the Bilhana, and this was the achievement of the Ajit Rajendra Chola, and this Prithviraj Raso, this was written by Chand Burden, and this was the life of the Prithviraj Chauhan. Okay, next we will go for the foreign sources. So, here these foreign sources are written by the foreign travelers, okay, the persons who come from the other countries and they will stay here for some time. So, those people, they also write their experience in particular region of the particular king. So, those are called as the foreign sources. So, here you can take the book of the Al-Biruni. So, this person, he wrote the Taqit-i-Hind. So, during the time of the Muhammad, means he came to India with Muhammad of Ghazni, and he mastered himself in the Sanskrit language, and he wrote about the experience of the India as a Taqit-i-Hind, that is the Enquiry of India, an Enquiry of India. Next, Ibn Battuta, he was Morocco born traveler, and during the time of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he came to the India and he wrote about the period, means how the Muhammad bin Tughlaq was ruling during that time. And not only that, Marco Polo, he has also came to India and he also wrote his experiences in his books. So, not only this, many of the books like Akbarnama, means biographies and autobiographies like Akbarnamas, Babarnama, Jahangirnama, and many of the books, they also gives us the information about lot of the kings, means many of the kings, not only the Mughals but also different kings, like I told that Prithviraj Raso, and all this we can know about the, means from these books we can know about the lifestyle of the people during that time and economical conditions, and many things we can know from that. So, here the historians, they go through many things, they go through the many of the sources to get the information, to get the accurate information. They go to the many of the sources and they get the information about the particular past. Okay. So, in the next lessons we are going to learn from the 700 CE, from the 700 CE, which is around the death of the Harshavardhana. From that time we will learn about the things. Okay. I hope you have understood this lesson. So, if you have any doubts, go through the lessons once again, and then you clarify. Means if still if any doubts are there, you can just comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video.